Welcome everyone to the Fostering Resilience presentation. I'm Crystal and I'm glad that everyone can join us at their own convenience and watch this presentation as they see fit and take whatever necessary information that they need and use it going forward in their lives, however they see fit. So let's set intention. Part of the techniques that I will show you for creating resistance for your children will be meditation techniques and breathing techniques. And in order for us to be able to foster this resilience and techniques in our children, we need to know what that looks like for ourselves. So I invite you to just close your eyes. We're going to take some deep breaths. And we're just going to try and get grounded and present for ourselves. Take in our surroundings and feel what's going on. We'll feel our arms, our torsos, our legs. How are we sitting into our chairs? How are we feeling inside? How do we feel the air around us? What do we smell? We're just breathing and allowing ourselves to take in the moment. Maybe there's something that we want to acknowledge from this week or this morning. What has happened? We want to acknowledge it. And then let it go for this hour so we can stay focused. And now set intentions. Where are we at? Where do we want to go? What do we want to take away from this today? We all have different struggles. And what do we want those struggles to look like in the future? So just take one more deep breath here. Hold, and then let go. Whenever you're ready to come back, you can come back. Okay, so the topics of this presentation, there's quite a few more than what is written here. However, the basics, it's what is resilience, building resilience in our children, and the real take home here is ourselves. And we'll see further in the presentation that modeling this is really a great way to get our children even more self-resilient. Emotional resilience, what can parents do? How do I? Managing emotions, the mindful techniques like one we just saw. And what are your takeaways? This is the key point in all of this, is really to say, what do you want to take home? What are the takeaways that really meant something to you? We're all going to see this differently, and that's okay. What do you want to take forward with you? So what is resilience? Well, resilience is essentially the bounce back, right? So the ability to adapt well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, stress, and it's when difficult situations arise, how do we bounce back? So we often see different photos like this where you see a little flower trying to reach for the sun. Well, here there's a flower that's hidden under rocks, and it's trying desperately to reach the sun to try and grow. And that's essentially what resilience is, right? Despite the hardships that are surrounding us, what options do we have, and how are we going to reach for the sun? And who am I? Well, who are you? What is that going to look like? What do you want that to look like? So this slide, I think almost all of us were able to answer it in the chat when we initially did this presentation, and it was great to see the results. Again, I ask you to think about this on a scale of 1 to 10. How resilient are you? And again, there's no right or wrong answers. Some points in my life, it might have been a 3. Other points in my life, I might have felt like I'm on top of the world. I got this, 9. And other points, maybe I feel, okay, I'm a 6 or a 7, and that's okay. What's great to know is that I can build other skills. And that being said, it's not necessarily the skills that I'm going to be able to utilize in every single part of my life, because sometimes things come up that I haven't gotten any experience with, and I don't know how to deal with that. But I am going to have tools in my backpack that I will be able to bring out and say, okay, what can I do with this? So in Canada, how do the provinces perform relative to each other? Well, Quebec actually comes out above average. And this is important to know because with the programs the government has put into place, such as accessible daycare for everyone, what this means is that we're putting everyone on the status quo. Like everyone gets to start daycare, and we're all able to get the same resources, the same learning, the same information at a young age. And that continues throughout all of high school, because the government has also put into other programs for schools who have difficulty with budget and whatnot. They provide extra resources for these schools, and therefore the students have access to these resources as well. So building resilience in children. What are some of the things that we can do to build resilience in our children? Normally this was done so that we could have a breakout room and discuss what our thoughts are, where we're at, what we think, what we know, just so that we get a sense of where are we at and where do I want to be. It's really important to get that baseline so that we know where we're sitting. We're aware of what is going on. Because the self-awareness, again, for kids is really important for them to understand, where do they sit? Where do they feel? What do they want? And in order for them to do that, we need to do that for ourselves. So I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. And then this cute little girl dressed up as a little superhero. I can take on the world. So again, what did we decide in the breakout rooms? This is coming back from our discussion and what we decided in it. There's this little boy in the picture here. He's fallen down off of his bike. And the sense of resilience is really a well-rounded feeling. Resilience is more than learning to fall off a bike and get back on again. It's about knowing I can fall off and I know how to deal with it. So Children need to learn to cope with everyday feelings and difficult situations and stressful life events. So this is where it's important that they learn these skills so that they know that it's okay if something happens to me. What's important is that I know what to do with it afterwards, and that's okay. So the importance of resilience, there's going to be everyday coping skills and difficult situations that we need to deal with. Stressful life events, we'll go through these a bit more later, but one big one is divorce, right? 50% divorce rate. There's going to be a lot of stressful life events that our kids need to deal with. And what does that look like for them? And what do we want that to look like for them? Their growth mindset. A lot of students in class now are getting presentations on growth mindset, and even teachers are talking about it and what they can do with that. What are their options when they feel they can't do something? What are their options? The unknown future is a scary thing we don't know. And how can we build resilience so that we can combat these unknowns? And even the known future. There's kids who start school sometimes and they think, oh geez, they're gonna laugh at me. I don't wanna start school, it's gonna be scary. That's the known future, that it's gonna be scary. It is scary, transition is scary. But we don't necessarily know if they're gonna laugh at us. And if they do, what can we do about it? Things that our kids are experiencing inside that they share or they don't share, what can we do about that to build resilience? So bullying, this is a quick little phrase that a lot of kids say, and it's part of that resilience piece. I know you are, but what am I? So essentially taking that situation and throwing it on the other person and saying, yeah, I don't need to take this. And I'm okay with what you're saying. I'm just not going to acknowledge it. And I know you are, but what am I? It's a resilience piece. So this resilience, it's a lot more than just being able to fend off our emotions. It's actually the social skills and relationships, the development of, it's tolerance of situations, and then compassion, empathy, understanding other points of views, and then coping with life experiences, but preventing these emotional problems that may arise due to these difficult situations. So when in these situations, children are going to be able to be sympathetic and sensitive to others' points of views and imagine what it's like to be in their situation, which is a huge component of being resilient. Being able to take the other's point of view and say, hey, where are they coming from? Maybe this isn't everything about me. Maybe it doesn't have to do with me. Maybe it does have to do with them. And it's a huge part of being able to get over these life events. And of course, then students aren't going to resort to unhealthy ways of coping with stressful events. So judgment and vulnerability, we may think, where does this come into play? But 90% of moms and 85% of dads feel judged. So we all want our kids to come talk to us and tell us what is going on with them. So how are these concepts showing up for us? Because if we're feeling judged as adults, we're feeling judged as moms, we're feeling judged as dads, then imagine how our kids are feeling judged. And how is that showing up for us? How are we feeling about the judgment? How are we letting ourselves be vulnerable and say, hey, this is a really difficult situation for me. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to think about my options. And allowing our kids to see that. Saying that, I feel bad about this and I'm not sure what to do. It's okay if we don't know what to do. That's exactly what we want our kids to know too, is that it's okay if you don't know. What's great is that we're going to find a solution. We can either find a solution together, or after this presentation, or after you do research together, or maybe your kids will be able to find solutions on their own. And that's exactly what we're hoping for, is that they do find these solutions on their own. Once they gain enough skills and confidence and resilience, then they can take it all on, like the little girl in the suit who thinks she's on top of the world and superwoman. So again, how do our kids feel about judgment and being vulnerable? And how do we want it to show up for our kids, right? We think judgment, this word has such a negative connotation associated with it, yet judgment isn't necessarily an all negative thing. There's many points where judgment can be a really positive thing if it's used correctly. So just being aware of that in the first place is something that is a great first step. So being judgmental can be good for our personal growth. It's good for goal setting, right? Getting that baseline again. Where am I at? And where do I want to be? And then align it with your values. We all have different values, and that's completely okay. So who do I want to become? Based on what sits with you inside. When you're alone and you're thinking and you're grounded and you're present, what is really important to me? What matters to me? And how can I become that? It's good for our self-esteem. I'm human. I can learn from my mistakes. I can move forward. We often, as I was doing presentations for kids and on growth mindset, this is a big thing too, that I tell them, we want to make mistakes. If we don't make mistakes, we're not growing, and we want to grow. Making mistakes is an opportunity, not something that we should feel ashamed by. It's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to learn something new. Mistakes are a great thing. And it builds our self-esteem when we say, hey, I didn't know this and now I do. Or, hey, I messed up. Own that. Own it and say, yeah, I did this and I'm really sorry about it. It's not the person I want to be, but I'm learning and I'm going forward with this. Make positive social choices. You don't want to, we're trying not to tell our kids to judge people, right? But judging people with similar personalities can actually be a good thing, because then it attracts those kind of people. And then we can make those positive choices. And, you know, it's kind of like the birds of a feather flock together. Well, then if we're gathering, let's say people who like hockey, well, if I'm going to gather other people who like hockey, well, then all of us together will most likely want to get together and hang out and do these kind of things together. So this one, we were talking about divorce earlier, and how do people cope with relationships or family turmoil? Now, that's not to say that these photos are representative of all of our households, but definitely a few. And it says underneath that emotional resilience is a learned behavior, and they are. Resilience is a learned behavior. It's not something innate that we're just born with and we can naturally just, you know, veer toward the sun. It's something that we learn from our parents. It's something that we learn from our siblings. We learn it in school. We learn it from peers or elders. We learn it all around us all day long. We even learn it from TV and episodes that we're watching. But we learn it from the people in our house, right? Mom and dad are who we look up to, and we're watching them all the time, taking in everything that they're saying and doing, because they're our superstars. So we want to be aware of how emotional resilience is showing up in our lives, because essentially this is what our kids are going to be learning. So we just want to look at these pictures and say, how do these pictures or other thoughts or images relate to our own experiences, and what do we want that to look like? We got to think, when my daughter grows up and has her husband, has her kids, what do I want her life to look like? What do I want her relationships to look like? When she's dealing with stress or family situations, or with her daughter who's putting her hands over her ears saying, I don't want to listen to you. What do I want that to look like for her? How do I want to help her now so that she can help herself later? So, along with judgment and vulnerability, gossip is a big thing too. We often gossip about others and we label people. So here we would label this person as he's a bully and I don't like him, rather than say his actions and behavior are something I really don't like. I don't appreciate it. And you can say that his actions are mean. He has mean actions. But him himself, underneath all the pain and hurt, again, the empathy piece and understanding where he's coming from, maybe he's a really great kid and we don't know his background. We don't know what he's going through. So what can be done so that we can see underneath all of these layers that he has, right? We don't want to necessarily label people, it's labeling behavior and actions. So boundaries, how do I know what to share and what not to share? Because there's a whole bunch of information that we're sharing with our kids on a daily basis. And where's my limit? Where's my boundary? So some quick tips, and I'm sure there's a lot more tips out there. So as parents, we're talking and we see the blah, blah, blah. If we're talking too much about our own feelings, then it's not putting enough focus and attention on our child's feelings. And that's where the balance comes into play, because earlier I said, no, it's important to talk about our feelings. Yes, absolutely. If we come home from work and we say, hey, Johnny, I had this really rough day at work and my boss told me that I have to get something in on Friday by 5 and I only have 2 days to complete it and I'm not sure how to do it. Yeah, it's okay to share those things in this kind of toned down language so that we can say, I have problems too. I have feelings too. And I'm not sure how to do it. Absolutely. But if we go on to too much detail in the feelings about this situation, then that's where the boundary is. Sweating the small stuff. And it's all small stuff, right? So sweating the small stuff, it's kind of like no need to cry over spilt milk, right? And my 2-year-old spills milk almost every day. And this is where I can take the opportunity to tell him, it's okay. We're not going to cry over spilt milk, but I understand your feelings. I understand you're upset that you spilt it over. So what can we do? And give him that opportunity to own his feelings, feel his feelings, and then move forward. Showing too much interest. Again, I know it's contradicting to what I've been saying. Show interest. Show that you're interested. But here again, if we show too much interest, then it's not a good thing either, because then we're feeding into whatever it is that's happening, and we don't want to feed into behaviors or feed into feelings either. Sympathy and avoidance. So we want to sympathize with behaviors, absolutely. Sympathize with feelings, sympathize with the way they're feeling, but not so much in the sense that we're going to create an avoidance in their feelings too. Like, for instance, the slide that was happening before with the bullying. So yeah, I understand that you're so scared. Maybe you should just stay away from him. Stay away from him completely. Don't talk to him and anyone that makes you feel scared in life. Stay away from him. We don't want to create this kind of nervous anxiety feeling inside. We want to say, great, I understand your feelings in this. So what can we do about it now? What are our options? And what are the options that sit well with you? that's a main point too, is that what sits well with us, what sits well with me as a mom, isn't necessarily what's going to sit well with my daughters or my sons. I need to bring it back to them and how do they feel about the situation. Overreacting, again, it's like the small stuff, right? No need to cry over spilt milk. And in the grand scheme of things, we want to look at the big picture. Whatever's happening in this moment, do I need to overreact to it right now? Is it like so big of a deal that I need to overreact and make a big deal out of something that's happening right now? Or is it just, I need to take time and express this? Say, you know what? I'm not sure what's going on inside of me right now, but I need to take 2, 5, 10, 30 minutes to digest this information, and I'll get back to you in 30 minutes. And then you go back to them in 30 minutes and say, hey, I thought about my feelings. I thought about what you're saying. I thought about your actions, and this is what I think. Taking time away is okay, but making sure that you come back to the situation afterwards and actually discuss that is the crucial key point. Positive reinforcement, you want to positively reinforce. I mean, these are all negative things that we're looking at, saying, you know, the small stuff and things that our kids are doing that get us anxious. But we want to positively reinforce all of those great things that they're doing too. All of the things that they're saying, they're doing, catch them in the moments of, wow, they're doing something really great. That's awesome. And tell them how we feel about it. Tell them that you're doing a great job and I'm really proud of you. And again, with the proud point too, when you say, I'm really proud of you, that's a great thing. This is what we learn from our teachers, our parents, everyone around us. I'm really proud of you. And what this does is creates external validation. And what we're trying to do with resilience is to create internal validation for them to feel great about themselves. So it's great to say, I'm proud of you. They need to know as parents that we're proud of them. But we also want to make sure that we know how they feel about themselves. So before saying we're proud of them, say, oh yeah, wow, that is so interesting. That's great. How do you feel about that? What do you think about that? Give them that time to think about it. And then say, yeah, I'm really proud of you too. That was awesome. That way they're internalizing their own thoughts and behaviors, and they can take that forward with them. So we have talked about feelings quite a bit already, but how do I talk about feelings? So essentially, all of these kids together, hanging out together, we want to ask, listen, summarize, avoid, read, and recognize. So when we're asking our children, how do you feel? What's going on for you? We want to listen to what they say, summarize what they say using their words. I know that's really hard. We're often paraphrasing and putting in our own thoughts and opinions and how we perceived it. Try and really summarize it according to what they said specifically, using their words, because we don't want to necessarily confuse the way we heard things versus the way they're feeling things, because then we might be stepping on their emotions rather than letting them come from where they want to come from. This one is something that I even work on too. Avoid telling your child how they should feel rather than how they do feel. With my daughter, for example, when she sees spiders, I say, oh, you don't need to be scared of that, even though I don't necessarily like them either. But I tell her, oh, you don't need to be scared. It's fine. They're not going to do anything. Ultimately, she's scared of them. So I need to just let that go and say, I understand you're scared. Let's take care of it. Just own those feelings. It's okay. We're often trying to say, avoid these feelings, avoid these feelings. Own them. Get present in the moment. Feel those feelings. Acknowledge them. And say, now what do I want to do? This is often the case for anxiety too. when there's an anxious moment, what can they do? Close their eyes. Acknowledge, I am anxious right now. Why am I anxious? What is going on for me? And what do I want to do? We're going to slow it down. We're going to acknowledge. We're not going to avoid. And we're just going to move forward. What do I want to do? Reading stories and characters' feelings are actually a great way to get kids to see the facial figures, the gestures, the feelings that characters and stories are feeling, and to get them, what do you think they're feeling right now in this story, and get the kids to judge that for themselves. See how they feel. How are they reading people's faces? How are they reading their body gestures and body language? It's a great way to get kids to start to learn empathy and seeing how they're doing with that. And then recognizing is exactly that, helping your kids recognize feelings in themselves, but also recognize feelings in others, and being able to read other people and see what they know about what's going on inside of others. So how do I encourage my kids? We've talked about this a lot already. Positive reinforcement, essentially, right? So positive attention. What I mean by positive attention is catching them in the moments of doing good things and constantly saying, wow, I really like the way you're getting ready all by yourself today. Wow, I really like the way you picked up your plate and put it in the sink. And all of these little things, these small things, or wow, I really like the way you and your brother or sister were playing together for the last half hour. You guys did a really good job together. Often they were playing for a half hour together and I didn't say anything. And then there's a fight that takes place because they're not sharing a toy or something took place. And then they get my attention. But then we're reinforcing that attention rather than all the other attention. And so they're more inclined to want that attention later on in life because it's what they're used to. So we want to congratulate our kids too on acknowledging their struggles and managing difficult situations and getting over those hurdles in life. So congratulate them on anything and everything, really. It's, hey, I know you got a 70 on your math exam, and I know last week you got a 45 and you must have studied really hard to get there. Good job. Awesome stuff. How do you feel about that? Well, I feel pretty great, Mom. I feel pretty great, Dad. Yeah, good job. Acknowledge the struggles. Again, saying that whatever their struggles are. Again, it's really hard because with all of our experience, we can go back and look at that now saying, wow, it wasn't that big of a struggle when I was 5, 6, 10, 15. Like the struggles kind of follow through with us. But at that age, with that life experience, it's always, a struggle is real at each age, right? Because that's the experience you have. So we want to acknowledge those struggles. So these characters, joy, fear, anger, disgust, sadness, you can ask your kids about this. There's a lot of classrooms who use these characters to allow kids to identify their own feelings and what's going on with them. And it's from the story, the new movie, Inside Out. Is that it? Why can I not remember this? I think that's it, Inside Out. And it's about emotional regulation. So recognize and accept feelings, express feelings appropriately, accept and resolve conflict situations, cope with stressful situations as well. So we want to essentially, like, this is what emotional regulation is. All of these things: to recognize, express, accept, and to be able to cope. And all of these abilities here are related to the child's development and according to their developmental age as well, right? They're not necessarily going to be able to do something that a 15-year-old could do, a 5-year-old, or, you know, it's age appropriate as well. But these are the kind of things that we want to encourage, all of these skills. And then these are the feelings attached to these situations. So now what can we do with it? Highly recommend watching this movie. It is Inside Out, great, good memory. So Inside Out, official trailer. For the initial presentation, I had this so that we could watch it. I won't do it now because I feel like I'm taking a lot more time in this presentation than I did initially. So I invite you to look at this with your kids. You can watch the trailer, check it out. And if you have the movie, watch it again. I love this movie. What are kids' movies attempting to teach us? A lot of it is about feelings, emotions, what kids are feeling, how they're dealing with it. And it's the same thing for us, essentially, right? Whether it's for a kids movie or us, there's a lot of adult mom, dad content in kids movies. I mean, to get us to go watch the movie, but also because it relates to us, right? All of these feelings and situations relate to us as well. It's not just for kids. We all have these kind of thoughts and feelings and emotions that we all need to learn to deal with. So emotion management, this is kind of similar to what we saw earlier about the ask, listen, and summarize. So again, when our kids are feeling an emotion, so we need to notice what is going on. When your child is upset, what are their typical behaviors? What do they do? Do they bite their nails? Do they fidget a lot? Or what's going on? What are the cues that we've noticed over time? Then we want to ask, hey, I'm noticing that you're biting your nails. Is anything going on? So what is wrong? And listen. Again, the summarizing part is really what you've heard without trying to judge what they're saying or put in our own ideas or perspective or opinions. Really leave it where they're at. Acknowledge their feelings. Yeah, I hear you. That must be really difficult for you. Offer help. We often want to dive right in there and say, okay, I got this for you. Don't worry. You're not going to have to feel an ounce of pain anymore. I got this. Mom's going to fix it or dad's going to fix it. And here we want to build resilience. And if we do everything for them, it's not going to build resilience. We want them to fall off their bikes, right? And learn to get back on again. So offer the help. And if they say, no, I got this. You can say, well, I want you to know that anytime anything happens, I'm always here to listen or offer advice, or we can brainstorm and solve together, come up with options together, whatever you want. Or even if you just want a sounding board, you're like, mom, sorry, I say mom, but dad too. It's just because I'm coming from my perspective. So, you know, here I thought of different solutions, and can you let me know what you think? You know, those kind of situations. And then prompt problem solving. Obviously, you want them to come up with their own solutions and figure that out and to see where they're coming from. And maybe you can talk about it again later, as was mentioned, and discuss those kind of options and solutions and what else could come from it. So what can parents do? We've looked at this a little bit already, and small shifts. We want to create small shifts to create resilience. So here's a mom and a dad, and they're thinking about their lives, what's going on. Maybe they're thinking about their kids saying, geez, what am I going to do about this? I just feel lost. I feel like I don't know who to reach out to. I feel like I can't connect. I feel like I don't know what to do. I feel inside out, you know? So essentially, ups and downs are normal. We want to normalize what is normal. and say, that's okay, it happens. Talk about our inside out friends. So the characters that I had there, discuss them about yourselves, discuss them about your kids. And, you can even print these out and put it up on the wall in your house and say, these are the emotions that we feel. And which one are we feeling today? How are we feeling in the moment? You can point to them. If it's too difficult to talk in the moment because your feelings are in your throat and your eyes are about to water up, then just point. Say, this is how I'm feeling. Okay. Good job. Good job expressing that. Because you want to express your emotions. Say what's going on. And then share your feelings appropriately. It's hard to maintain anger and frustration when sometimes all we want to do is cry. And it looks like anger, but really it's just sadness. And it's difficult in deciding which behavior we're going to allow to be expressed and tie that with the appropriate feeling. It's hard to know how to do that. I mean, even us as adults, sometimes we feel something and we're acting one way, but really we feel another. And we got to see, okay, I need to, the meditation part again of, okay, I'm going to get grounded. I'm going to feel what I'm feeling and what is going on here, rather than just jump to conclusions and let myself run wild with emotions. So recognize and name those emotions. What's going on for me? What's going on for the other person? Encourage emotional expression. And we really want to, if they're angry, it's okay. I mean, we all get angry sometimes, and that's fine. But the way we express it is what's important to know the difference of. We often hear, if you're angry, go to your room, take a pillow, scream into your pillow. That's okay. What's not okay is that you scream at other people. So learn those different techniques and see what works. The pillow screaming is often a big one that we hear now. But Google is your friend sometimes, and just how can I express anger appropriately? And then see what that looks like. What can kids do? So this is my vulnerable moment now to let you guys know where I'm coming from and what are some struggles that I've had that other people might have shared as well. But it's just to allow others to normalize our own situations in life and what's going on, and look at the trends and patterns, what's happening and what's taking place and what can be changed so that things, change with the forward process of things. So this is my 2-year-old, and I'm not sure if you can see what's on the stairs there, but he has one of those yogurt tubes, which he thinks it's hilarious to just take, and it looks like snow when he's, throwing it all over the place and it's flying everywhere, and he's having a ball. He's thinking, wow, this is awesome. This is so much fun. Look at it going everywhere. And then I'm standing at the top of the stairs thinking, oh, geez, he's having so much fun doing this, and I'm going to have so much fun cleaning it up. Opportunity. So I have to stop myself in the moment and say, this is an opportunity. What is the opportunity? The opportunity to teach, to connect, to help him learn. So I can take him and say, well, I understand that this was fun for you. I can see that. However, it makes a big, big mess afterwards. So why don't we find something that's fun that doesn't make such a mess? Okay, let's clean it up together, and then we can do some bubbles outside maybe. There's a learning opportunity. I mean, obviously this is a simple one, but if we take this exact thing again, this exact situation, and apply it to our teens or whatever may come, it's essentially the calming down aspect. Because obviously it's not fun to clean this up, but I can calm down in the moment. I don't have to get angry and say, what are you doing? I can say, I know what he's doing. He's having fun. He's throwing it everywhere. He's having fun. So I can calm down in the moment and say, okay, What is my opportunity here? It's a mistake. This is a mistake. And like we mentioned before, mistakes are great to make because they provide opportunities for growth. So what is the opportunity here? What is my opportunity here? And then carry forward. So managing emotions, I'm not sure if you can see this in as clear as I can. It's just things that are provided. You can Google these as well. It's how are you feeling? So there's all different emojis of how we adults or our kids can feel. And again, this is great for pointing out too, if our kids have difficulty or we have difficulty describing how we're feeling, well, we can just point and say, this is how I feel right now. And then again, all the post-its there are listen to understand, ask deeper questions, avoid interruptions, nonverbal cues, slow down and practice silence. So silence is really big because it allows us to just calm down, focus. Where do I want this to go? That was part of the meditation at the beginning of this, to let us allow our mind just to get focused and calm. So train your mind and don't be distracted, and withhold judgment. It's hard to withhold judgment, especially when our kids come to us with a problem. We say, okay, that's it. I got this. I can solve this for you. And that little kid shouldn't be bullying you, and he's a bully. And we start saying these things, but really we want to withhold that judgment. And it's normal as a parent that you want to jump right in there, but we want to be careful about labeling other kids and what they're doing, and try and get our kids to be more resilient in that moment. Again, it's a mistake that the other kid could be doing. It is a mistake. I mean, they shouldn't be doing that. It's a mistake. But what's the opportunity again? This here on the right is a feelings wheel. And the importance of this is language. It's really important, the language that we're telling ourselves, because if a kid hears the word stupid or idiot or dumb or not good enough or all of these kind of words, even though they hear it the one time, it's repeated in their mind several times throughout the day. So even though it's only once that they hear it, it's actually several times that they hear it. So it's being reinforced constantly without you knowing. And this language wheel is the basic words or basic vocabulary of anger, sad. I can't even see it from here, but there's basic emotions in the center. And then it explains a bit more the language of what those emotions could mean. And then even more on the third outer layer. So it provides us with language to be able to properly express what is going on inside of us and what we want to do with that. It's a great wheel. I mean, lots of therapists actually use this in their therapy sessions as well, so that clients can start to be more aware, self-aware of their emotions and what's going on inside of them, and use the proper language to describe. So we have talked about this a little bit before about divorce and coping with life events, and what are the life events that our kids could be experiencing. So friends at school, there's disappointments in life, loss, maybe they lose someone who's close to them, whether it's because a friend stops talking to them, or a teacher moves to another school, or the loss of a loved one, divorce, anxiety, trauma, illness. All of these things are life events that our kids need to learn how to deal with. But what's important here is really to allow your child to be upset. You know, the avoidance part that we were talking about earlier is, oh, you don't need to feel this way. Get over it and you'll be fine. And, you know, this is life and it's okay. We're allowed. We often want to, it's almost like we're scared of acknowledging these emotions for ourselves. So we don't want them to feel it. So just avoid it. Come on, let's go. Let's figure out something else and let's change our ideas and we'll do something else. Let's go shopping and we'll just forget about it. I mean, these are great techniques. Like we want to change our mindset eventually and focus on something else. We want to focus on the positive, right? But you also want to accept those emotions, accept those feelings, just acknowledge them. Allow them to be upset. Allow yourselves to be upset. Take those feelings and say, I am owning these feelings. I am feeling these feelings. It's okay to feel these feelings. But now what do I want to do with them? I can't just stay in these feelings forever. It's true. But I also want to feel them and know that they're okay to have. So, and again, as we mentioned before with the ask and summarize, suggest to solutions, and maybe even check in later, seek advice, a sounding board, all of these kind of things essentially apply to all of these different life events and what we can do to help our kids build resilience. So mindfulness techniques, here we see they're doing yoga and meditation. I don't know what this looks like in schools. I know that some schools are actually talking about mindfulness now. I'm not sure how many schools, the percentage, or what your schools are looking at and engaging in. But meditation and mindfulness techniques are definitely something that can be taught to anyone. And it's really great for our minds to just get centered, our bodies to get centered, and to really check in with ourselves. So what we can do with our kids is, what do you see? What do you hear? And what do you smell? The reason for this is to really get aware, self-awareness of what's going on around me. They want to be able to read and to see perspectives and compare that to themselves and to see what that looks like. Deep breathing, obviously just breathe in. And then we're going to let it out. It's really important to be able to just remain centered and calm and to acknowledge what's going on. Stretching, I mean, stretching is great for all of us, right? We should all do a bit more. Drawing, sometimes drawing out your feelings and your emotions and the colors that you use to describe those feelings is a great way to get that out, whatever that is for you, just to get it out and to feel that. Squeeze and release. I mean, that was squeeze and release is like stress balls, right? So you're squeezing it and then releasing it. Remember how that used to feel when you would release it and then the stress ball would just slowly open up again? Well, you can do this just with your hands. You don't need to hold something in the hands, but you can just do it with your hands, like to squeeze your hands and then release. And if you need to do that a couple times, that's okay. Or squeeze your whole body, tense up your whole body, and then release your body. Oftentimes we see kids doing this naturally themselves, and this is essentially what their body's trying to do for themselves, relax. They're trying to relax, and they don't know that this is what they're doing. They're just getting angry, but their body's trying to relax. A mindful snack is if you give them anything to eat, really, then say, what's the texture? What does it look like? What does it smell like? And what do you think of it? What does it look like? What does it remind you of? And these are all mindfulness techniques because you want them to start making associations and recognizing things and seeing things. And these are all emotional skills too, because eventually, once kids are able to recognize these things, they'll be able to recognize it in their emotions later on too, and start making those connections that are needed to see where they're coming from, where they're at, where the other person's coming from, and perspective taking and empathy and all of these things. These emotional skills are connected to happiness and well-being and success in life. So all of these things are not just behaviors and emotional well-being for now and their 10 years of living or 12 years of living or 15 years of living. It's really for the rest of their lives. We're creating these habits for the rest of their lives so that they know how to navigate the difficulties and hardships of life. Gratefulness, again, I cannot say it enough how important it is that we're modeling these things. Now, mistakes, right? Again, we're all going to make mistakes, and we're going to have days where we just can't get ourselves centered. We just can't get ourselves present to model these things appropriately. We're going to have our days that we're off, and that's okay because we all have them. I have them. Everybody has them. It's fine. But what we can do is reflect on them and say, how am I going to do this better tomorrow? How am I going to do this better next year? What do I want that to look like? High and low of the day is something that you can do together as a family and say, the great thing that happened to me today was I aced my exam. And the low thing of the day that happened to me was my friend didn't talk to me at school today. And talk about these things. Shared experiences. Anytime families do shared experiences, whether it's just with dad alone or mom alone or everyone together, you want to look at those shared experiences and what that looked like for each perspective and see, oh yeah, how is that for you? Oh, how is that for me? And discuss those things, because then it's engaging in the gratefulness of the experience. Like, I'm happy that this took place. And then you can see about the other person too. What did you think about it? And engage in the gratefulness and contentment of their own perspective and their situation, their experience as well. But we really want to model it throughout the whole way of, I'm so happy that we got to do this. I'm so grateful that we had the time to do this. I'm so grateful that we have the surroundings and country that we can go outside and do these things. You know, like the gratefulness of opportunities that are available to us. Community involvement. Community is a really big thing. Back in the day, we would have 10 kids running around, 12 kids running around, and the aunts and uncles and moms and everybody would get together and be community involvement. Fortunately, for some families and some cultures, this still really exists, community, a sense of community. And in schools, we're really trying to increase this community involvement. And it's a really great thing because this is how you can get involved in helping others, which makes people feel so much better about themselves, being able to give and help others and be there for other people. It increases self-esteem, it increases self-awareness, and it just makes you feel great overall. And this is a huge aspect that if you can get kids involved in community involvement, and even families, even if you do this once every month or 3 months or 4 months or once a year, we go and give hand out soup at a soup community event, then whatever it is that you decide, try and search those different things that they could get involved in. Stop to smell the roses is essentially that. Appreciate the small things in life and stop to just, wow, acknowledge, recognize, and say, this is something that means something to me and I really like it. Oh, I think I skipped over one there. I apologize. So what am I telling myself? Again, we've touched on all of these now. Mommy, are you proud of me? Well, yes, I'm proud of you. But again, how do you feel about yourself? That's the key here. How do you feel about yourself? I want you to be able to know how you feel. It's great that I need to be proud of you. Absolutely. But how do you feel about yourself? Because how are you going to feel about yourself going forward in life? That's the resilient part. Language. I am excited. So what's the language that they're using? Try and connect with that and see what kind of language they're using and how they're describing themselves or describing other things or other people, what's going on with that. And again, modeling it for yourself, checking in with yourself. What kind of language are you using? What kind of language are you using to describe yourself? And not only verbally, but inside your minds. What is going on inside of us? What are we thinking? What's the language you are using to think? Because that, again, is being constantly recorded in our minds without us knowing. So what habits do we want to be telling ourselves? Thinking affects our feelings. This, again, is something that's said in schools often, and it's true, right? So thinking affects our feelings, which affects our behaviors and affects everything else in our lives. So what kind of thinking do we want to be doing? What thinking are we doing? And what thinking do we want to be doing? So empathy and perspective taking, again, it's really important to be able to take the other perspective, their point of view, and to say this doesn't necessarily have to do with me all the time. Maybe there is something I'm doing to create this dynamic, but what is going on for the other person? What's happening from their side? So helpful versus unhelpful thinking, it's just that. What is helpful, what is unhelpful, and how do you want to make the unhelpful helpful? And model. So positive self-talk to cope with stress. I don't know if you do this, but I know as I get older, start to talk out loud and you're saying things. So the positive self-talk, if I can say as I'm walking around saying, I have so many things to do, I'm so stressed, but what can I do to make this better? Example. Then at least if your kids are hearing this, yes, they might laugh a little bit that, you're talking out loud to yourself again. That's okay. These are the things I want you to hear. I want you to hear that I have many things to do and I'm not sure what to do with them. And maybe you can even help me solve one or two of these problems. What can I do? What should my schedule look like? What do you think I should do to be more productive? These little things that can teach them how to be more productive in their own lives too. If they help you do it, then they'll naturally want to do it themselves. So problem solving steps. What is the problem? So essentially you want to say, okay, what's going on? What's the problem? Let's detail. Again, it's from their perspective. What are the options? What options do you have to solve this problem? Then you want to say, not only, because sometimes we can come up with options that aren't really great options, but they're still an option, but it's not the best one. So then list those, the best to the worst, and then come up with an action plan. Okay, how are we going to do this now? How are we going to implement it? What's it going to look like? Is there anything we're missing? Are there any holes in that? Do we need to go back and maybe take another one now because this isn't working out, the action plan? What's happening? And revision is key, because that's where you get to reflect on, hindsight 2020. So you get to reflect on the opportunity for growth. Revision is always the best part of problems, because then you get to see what went well, what didn't go so well, what you think you could do next time, and revision is key. So preparing for these emotions, again, it's independent coping skills and strategies. So when my child falls off the bike, I want them to know that they can independently get back on, look at their leg, maybe say, oh, I have a scratch, or oh, it's bleeding. What can I do? I can bike home and say, yeah, this really hurts right now, but I can go get a Band-Aid. I can go clean it up, or whatever it is. They can be independently helping themselves and coping with their own situations and problems. Set an example. Again, whenever something's wrong, let's say I'm driving in the car and I get a flat tire. I can say, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do about my flat tire. What am I going to do? And I can start getting upset, and they can see that the anxiety is starting to increase in me. Or I can say, oh my gosh, I can't believe we got a flat tire. So what can we do now? Ultimately, we can get anxious and angry and everything, but is it going to change anything? Not really. It's still going to be flat. It's not going to hear us and then magically get bigger because we're upset about it. No, it's going to stay flat. So that's an opportunity to say, okay, this happened. What are my options now? What can I do to resolve this? And then talk about my feelings. I am very upset right now. Don't get me wrong. I am upset that the car stopped, that I can't drive, that I wanted to go have a fun day with you today, and now it's taking time away from us. Absolutely. It's upsetting. It's frustrating. But, things happen, and, at least everyone's okay. Everyone's fine. We'll just get a tire fixed and that's that. Practice facing fears. I mentioned about my daughter the other day with the spider thing, how she's scared of spiders. And I say, oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's not going to do anything. Really, I need to acknowledge her, facing her fears, and then practice that. Maybe even get her to come closer. Maybe even, fear factor style, let the spider crawl on her hands or whatever it may be. This is just for the example for a spider, but I mean, it's for anything in life. How can I let her practice facing those fears, either guided with me or on her own? Remaining calm in situations, and then prompt for solutions, praise and say, wow, this is such a great job you did. I'm so proud of the way that you maintained calm and you were able to focus and use all of your skills and strategies. You did an awesome job. Good job. And then envision. What do you want that to look like again? It's like the revision is key. Well, then envision, what do you want that to look like going forward? So here is a thing about optimism and curiosity. So optimism, obviously, we know that it's positive and thinking and attitude and people and life and possibilities, and it's just everything that's positive, right? Optimism. So we want to encourage activities where kids they're in the box here playing around, they're drawing on it, they're pretending it's houses or whatever it is that they're pretending. What's great about this is that it's their own optimistic viewpoints of what this looks like for them. Their creativity, what they're doing, they think it's awesome. They're doing it really well. The good side of being happy and positive, and their goals. They want to make little houses for each other and then color inside. Like, they're doing that all on their own, and they're feeling good about it. They're being independent about it, and they're creating resilience by owning their own situations. They're enjoying it, they're feeling great about it, and that builds the confidence and resilience. Curiosity, you want to encourage, I know it's hard because they often get dirty, or they slip and fall and get hurt, or they do things that, oh no, don't stick the fork in the outlet. That's not the kind of curiosity, curiosity killed the cat. We don't want to explore that kind of thing, but we do want to encourage exploration and show interest in what they're exploring, because this is going to open their horizons to what they see, what they acknowledge, what they know, what they see out there. If they always put on visors and they're kind of in this bubble world, then they're not going to have that much experience to be able to make connections and see things differently. So decision making, try and let them make as much decisions as possible. Mommy, come see. So and I'm guilty of this too. Sometimes I'm doing the dishes or I'm doing something else or I'm running around or making dinner, whatever it is. And my daughter says, come see this, come see this. And I say, okay, hold on a second. But really, it doesn't matter. I should just put my things down, go see her. And it'll only take a minute or two. And give her that opportunity to show me what's interesting to her right away. Right away. Almost all the time. Again, this goes back to what do we want to encourage and what do we not want to encourage. So it depends, it's situation specific, but for the most part, when she's asked me to go see something that's interesting to her, I should just go see. Ask questions. How can I find out more? So, wow, that's so interesting. What do you think about that? And yeah, when did you see this again? And what happened? And all of these kind of questions. Like, be curious and let them know that you're really excited about what they were excited about too, and that you can discuss these kind of things and make connections. Okay, so final words. So we want to recognize our own judgments and vulnerabilities. See how that's showing up for us. What does that mean for us? And what do we want that to look like? Resilience, again, is more than falling off a bike and getting back on. It's knowing that I have the tools to get back on and I can do something about it. And today, there was a lot of information that was covered. And I invite you, now that it's on YouTube and you guys can watch it whenever you feel like it, and you can pause it, go back, it's great. So just choose one thing that has resonated with you and try it. You know, that's what's the beauty of all of this, is trial and error. And mistakes are a good thing because it creates opportunity for growth and moving forward, and to decide what our puzzle gets to look like moving forward. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Q&A, unfortunately, we can't do Q&A. However, that being said, if there's anything that I have brought up in this presentation or anything that comes up for you, we are always here that you can reach out to us, or the principal, whoever it may be. There's always options, right? So just maybe jot down a list or jot down your questions or thoughts or anything that comes up for you and say, yeah, this is something I'd like to explore. And go with it. You know, we're all in this together. We've all have our struggles and moments, and we got this though. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.